All right. Hi, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Career Expo 2024, which is hosted by the KCYLNA College and Career Fair Committee. Thank you so much for joining us today to hear more about these accomplished individuals' unique career paths. So my name is Mazhuvancheril. I am the KCYLNA president. I'm from Dallas. And then Daniel, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi there, my name is Daniel Prince Canotra. I'm KCYLNA's West Coast RVP, and happy to be here.
So just to give a small introduction, KCYLNA created the College and Career Fair Committee last year, and we're incredibly excited to host our first ever career fair. So this is the second part of it, after receiving feedback from all of you about what career paths you would like to hear more about. So today we will hear directly from our accomplished panelists who are passionate about their career paths and hope to help you explore your options as you decide what career paths you might be interested in. So if we go to the next slide, we ask that you please keep your mics off to prevent any distractions. But if you have questions for the panelists, please feel free to use the chat or the raise hand button. And we also recommend that you put the Zoom in the side-by-side gallery mode. So without further ado, I'd love to turn it over to our panelists to introduce themselves. So if all of you could introduce yourselves with your name, your city, a little background on your career experience and educational background, that would be great. So why don't we go ahead and start with Alex.
Hey guys, my name is Alex Denny. I'm from Chicago. My, main job, what people would say is that I'm an accountant. It's my job by trade, but I do emceeing on the side with my brother. His name is Amal. He unfortunately couldn't attend today. But yeah, please let us know if you guys have any emceeing opportunities. Our name is called MCD.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Next, we have Carol Mazhuvancheril.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carol Mazhuvancheril. I'm an actor, theater maker, and educator. I'm currently in New York City. I have a master's in acting and theater, and I'm a part of both of the Actors Union, which is the Actors Equity for stage and theater, as the Screen Actors Guild for on-screen acting.
Awesome. Thank you, Carol. Next, we have Justin Thottam.
Hi, everybody. My name is Justin Thottam. I'm my interventional spine doctor. I'm from New York, born and raised there. I went to school there, med school there, did fellowship at the Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, and then now I moved over to Florida, so I'm practicing here now. I'm part of a hospital group practice, outpatient clinic, and I think we'll talk probably more about that going forward.
Yeah, thank you. And next, we have James Purayampallil.
Hi guys, I'm from San Jose, California. I got my education from University of Pittsburgh. I got my bachelor's in exercise science, and I got my doctor's in physical therapy at Northeastern in Boston. I have experience in a variety of different fields, from inpatient and outpatient, from general orthopedics to the pediatric ICU. My main passion and main experience is in pediatrics, so especially those kinds of questions, I'll be happy to take. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, James. Next, we have Jeffrey Purayampallil.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Purayampallil. I'm from San Jose, California. I'm a civil engineer. I got my bachelor's and master's as well in civil engineering. Currently living in San Jose, or currently living in San Francisco. I work for the city of San Francisco, the Public Works Department, as a project manager, where we manage construction projects related to public infrastructure. So I've been on the city side for 6 years now. So any engineering or civil engineering questions, feel free to ask away.
Great. Thanks, Jeffrey. And then last but not least, we have Lijo Valiaparambil.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lijo. I'm living in Sacramento in California. I work as a computer science engineer for the state of California. I've been in this field for the past 12 years now. And I was born here, but I did my school in India and I graduated there in 2012 and then I came back here. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, all of you, for your introductions. Now I'm going to pass it over to Isabel. She's the chair of the College and Career Fair Committee, and she's going to get us into the panel section.
Hey guys, so the first question that we wanted to ask is, what drew you to this career path? Could you give us some insight onto that?
I guess I could just start. I've always enjoyed helping people, taking care of people. It's always been a passion of mine of helping others. So I always knew I wanted to be in the medical field, but I didn't know exactly where. So, always asking all my different cousins and different connections of where to shadow. So I shadowed a lot of DOs and a lot of PAs. Didn't figure out exactly where I wanted to be, but then I worked as a CNA where I got experience working with physical therapists. So then I thought to shadow physical therapists. That's when I really realized where I wanted to be a physical therapist. So I think kind of trying different things and different experiences helped me along the way of deciding my career.
I think same thing with me. I kind of wanted to help people, and being in the Kana community and in the indie community, I think we were usually more drawn or told to go in the medical field. It's a little bit more stable. Well, I guess I'm sure a lot of fields are stable, but we were taught or told, at least I was taught or told, the medical field is stable. So I ended up going into a 7-year program from high school. Was able to get in, and that kind of helped streamline a lot of the stuff because I was able to take all the classes I need to take, and it's a little bit easier through a 7-year program if you can get in compared to the conventional method, which is 4 years of undergrad and then 4 years of med school. It's just a little bit harder in terms of if you get into the program, you can just meet your requirements, and obviously you can do more than that. But if you meet your requirements, technically you should be guaranteed a seat in med school. And then once we get into med school, you can kind of see different fields. So 2 years of med school is studying about everything. And then the last 2 years is doing rotations where you can go to different fields and see what's best with your vision and what you want to do with your life in terms of specialties. And then even from that, there's like internal medicine, there's cardio, there's pulmonology. There's so many different fields you can kind of jump into from there. I ended up going to physical medicine rehab, and then from there doing interventional pain. And that path kind of led me there just because of really instant gratification. I felt like I can see patients and treat them, and you can see them improve in terms of their pain and function, see them do better. They're coming into your office hobbling, and then you treat them appropriately, and within a few weeks or a week or so, you can try to get them better. And it's crazy because you see so many patients come in and like they're so happy that they're getting their life back, and some of them hug you and all that stuff. It's really gratifying. So it's a really nice career path in terms of that.
I guess I can kind of go. Sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. I just wanted to kind of say what kind of drew me to this career was the fact that initially me and my brother were just, we're kind of the life of the party everywhere we go. But one of my cousins, it was his wedding, and then last minute he kind of told us, honestly, like an hour before his actual wedding ceremony, he was like, "Hey, would you guys want to do emceeing for us? We don't really have one." So we kind of prepared within about an hour, and then we kind of killed it. And then since then on, a lot of people asked about us being MCs, and we all know about night weddings. It's always lit, it's always fun, and we love making people's days. We love like having fun, and the fact that when we enjoyed our time doing emceeing, it made a lot of people's days better. Not just their event, but everyone had the life of their time. So I think that was what kind of drew us to this path. It wasn't something that we've always like kind of dreamt of, but once we did it, once we enjoyed it, we saw everyone just smiling, having the time of their life. We were like, I think this is something that we definitely need to do professionally. So that's how. So
I can go next. For my career of civil engineering, I really chose it that fall semester called applying to colleges. I mean, I narrowed it down to engineering as a general field, and then I looked at mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, civil engineering, and to me, civil engineering seemed the most exciting, just to learn about, and also thinking of working in something for a couple of decades. That seemed like the most plausible. But for me, I mean, civil engineering, it was always a fascination with building something and then having hundreds and thousands of people use that in their daily life and probably not even realizing it. And then how I currently got into my current role. So for civil engineering, there's many different specialties. The specialty I kind of went with in civil engineering and what I do now is mainly construction management. So for the city of SF, we manage construction projects for public infrastructure. And that's always exciting. I mean, there's always new things going on. Nothing is ever repetitive. So for me, that's how I really got into civil engineering and then ultimately construction management. But with civil engineering, there's so many different pathways you can go with. But that would be my ultimate piece of advice to everyone is just when you're early on in applying to colleges or early on in your freshman or sophomore year of college, just number one priority is finding what type of field you want to go into. Eventually find a little niche or specialty that you want to focus on. Thank you.
I can go next. So, what drew me to this career path? So while I was in high school, I had, a couple of friends who had some great knowledge about computers and video games and all that. And so every time I hear them talk, I was always fascinated about it just because of their knowledge. And I kind of, in some ways, I wanted to be like them. And at the time, uh, I don't think anything else interested me other than, computers and video games and being involved in that. And so that was one of the things where kind of helped me decide to go into the computer engineering route. And the other thing I took into account is the scope of the field. Everything and everywhere, there is always a need for a computer. And so computer science has really a wide scope in terms of the job market.
I'm an actor. And what drew me to this path, I guess, is I've always been a performer. My parents were really into like having us, both me and my sister, learn music, dance, skits, things like that. And then my undergrad, I did graphic design because I felt like as a person in our community, that was the closest I could think about art in a professional sense. But then while I was in undergrad, I think it was I was a freshman in undergrad when Dallas hosted the convention, and I was in Dallas, and somehow I got to direct our welcoming program. My credits at the time being I had seen a Broadway show, and that was it. But somehow like that became a thing, and it was as hard and challenging as it was, I found really a lot of joy in doing that. And then once I graduated, as I was nearing my end of my graphic design or my undergrad, I really started thinking about theater as more seriously. And I had the opportunity to move to New York, when I graduated, and then I moved to New York, worked as a designer full-time for 2 years, and started doing some independent work as an actor. And then I got into grad school for theater arts, specializing in acting, which then led to a showcase, which then led to landing an agent and a manager, which then led to me auditioning and then starting a career as an actor. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys. That was actually really insightful. I think the next question really plays into some of what you guys said. So what we wanted to ask you was like, what are the paths people take to get into your field? is that like in line with what you did? How did yours differ? And like as a follow-up, like is there any like schooling or like exams or certifications that are like necessary for your job?
So I can start. I think I kind of touched on it a little bit, but usually I got into a 7-year program, so I did 3 years of undergrad to get my bachelor's, and then which was like 20 credits each semester was kind of intense, 18 to 20 credits, and then once you meet your minimum requirements, you can get into the med school that's associated with it. So I went to NICOM, which is in New York. The conventional way is 4 years of undergrad, and then whatever, as long as you have the pre-med requirements, you take the MCAT, and then you get into med school based on that, and then other extracurricular activities and qualifications. It's definitely easier to get in through the 7-year route, just because again, you're as long as you meet your grade requirements, you're in. Whereas the conventional route, sometimes I've seen med students now or students trying to get into med school, they do 4 years and they have great grades and they look great on paper, but sometimes they just don't get in, and it's hard in that aspect. Once you get into med school, there's 3 boards you have to take. You take a board in the middle, 2 years in, then a second board. Your step 2s are in usually year 3, and then your third step you take in your first year of residency or right after med school. Then you get into residency program. You apply for that after med school or in the middle of med school, 3rd year of med school to 4th year. You have to interview and try to get into a residency program. What that is training. You get paid for it, but you're under other attending. So it's kind of like a paid internship per se. You do that depending on your specialty for 3 years, and you can go up to 4 or 5 years depending on the specialty, with like surgery being 5 years. After residency, you can either get a job and work as an attending where you're kind of on your own, or you can do fellowship, which can be another year or more depending on this type of specialty. And you have to take boards for whatever residency you go into. And then if you go into fellowship, there's another test if you want for fellowship training. So there's a lot of tests along the way to be a doctor and all that stuff. So it's a little rigorous, but you just take it one year at a time or one day at a time, and you get through it.
On that note, I did not do the direct program. I did not know what I wanted to be when I was 18. So when I went to school, I was still figuring it out. So in physical therapy, there are direct programs. It's a 6-year program. But I did 4 years of my undergrad, and then I applied to my grad schools. It's a little, again, the direct program, you have a reserved seat. It's a little bit harder. They only accept around 50 to 100 students, sometimes 200 students, depending on the school, and they almost have like 4,000 to 5,000 applicants. So it's hard to get in, not the direct way, but there's always a way. You always try to be the best you can be. But after you do grad school, there are some boards. There is a national test that you have to take, and then they hire a jurisprudence exam where you, depending on the state you live in, there's specific laws you need to follow. And then after that, you're a board certified physical therapist. But then if you wanted to, you can do a residency. It's not necessary to be an additional thing, but if you wanted more experience in pediatrics or orthopedics or sports, you could do a residency in that where you'd be really specific into that population. But other than that, really, we have clinical rotations right before you graduate where I wanted to have a little bit more pediatric experience or inpatient experience so I can narrow down, so I could have that experience in that specific field or population. But there's different ways to get to your main goal.
I guess I can kind of touch on this. For emceeing, I guess it's kind of a unconventional way to try to get a job or to get into this field. You don't necessarily need any schooling, even though there is technically degrees to get an emceeing degree. But we kind of went the unconventional way of just starting the business just from what people kind of wanted us to do. If you feel like there are a lot of people telling you guys, hey, like you guys should do something like emceeing, or you guys bring the energy to somewhere. I think that would be a path I could tell you guys. There are different ways to get into it, but I would say I think a couple of the top things that you would need to bring is the energy, the wanting to make people's days just, it's usually weddings, birthdays, stuff like that. They're already having a party-ish, and you kind of want to bring the energy to bring the people out of their shells to make their day not just, less stressful, but just make it the time of their life. So I think especially like something like a wedding, this is usually what people are looking forward to in their lives. So you want to make that one of the best events that you can make it. So I think generally, if you bring the energy, if you bring making everyone's day better, a focal point of your job, I think this is a path you can take. There's not necessarily a specific schooling or anything you need to do. So
I can go next. So in the computer science field, I would say you would need at least an undergraduate degree, a four-year bachelor's degree for computer science and engineering. That would be the biggest step as far as going into this career path. You could also take master's degree as well. That would definitely help and make your resume stand out, but it's not mandatory. You could also take certain certifications in particular fields that would also help you in terms of making your resume stand out. Again, that's not mandatory in order for you to land a job, but I would say the most important thing is experience. Just at least even getting an internship experience while you are doing your undergraduate degree, it goes a really long way, because when you apply for jobs, that is what technical recruiters and managers look into and focus into the most part. They would look at your experience, and internships really go a long way. And in order to add to that, probably an easier way to get into internships is, if you know people, if you have, if your parents, friends, or if you know a family's, like a friend's friend or whatever, if they are in that industry, and if you can provide your resume to them, and if they can help you get into a company in order for some, it doesn't even have to be a paid internship, but at least if they can help you get some experience, that would be very helpful.
I could go next. For civil engineering, similar to computer engineering, most jobs once you graduate require a bachelor's degree. So I got my bachelor's in civil engineering. And then similar to computer engineering as well, I mean, having internships throughout your four-year college, that helps a lot on your resume. I think 1 year I worked a whole summer unpaid internship. I learned a lot, but at the same time, getting unpaid, so it is a small sacrifice to make. And then I think I had two other internships, all for city agencies as well, during my undergrad. And then once you graduate, you can, I mean, there's two main fields in civil engineering. Once you graduate, you can either go the private route or the public sector. I always just preferred, and I'm currently in the public sector. I'm working for a government agency. The other route is going the private route. So you could either work for a general contractor, which are the actual individuals and companies that actually perform the construction, or you could work at a design or consultant firm, which is a lot more engineering and desk work. And so, I mean, it's whatever you prefer in regards to civil engineering. I know people that they bounce back and forth between both. So you always have that option as well. And then in regards to certifications for engineering, after you graduate from your bachelor's degree, a lot of engineers get this certificate called an engineer in training. It's called an EIT. It's basically just saying you're certified engineer at the lower level, and then after a couple of years of experience, you can get your professional engineering license. It's called a PE. So a lot of individuals I work with have their PE. I actually did not pursue my PE just because I did not want to do engineering forever. So I pivoted a little bit in civil engineering to more project management. So I actually got my project management certificate. So that's also another pivot in my career that you guys, it's a possibility. Project management. And then in regards to other certifications for engineering, the EIT and the professional engineering, those are the main two ones. But also at the end of the day, you don't need certifications. Your bachelor's degree is what gets you in, and then from there, it's just based off your experience and work performance. Thank you.
To be an actor, there really is no, or to be any artist, I would say, right? There really is no specific path. But I guess I'll just share like what I did. I went to grad school for acting. And it was this program that ended up, it was a 2-year program that ended up with something called a showcase, which means all the actors in that program, it's usually a small class. In master's classes, it's probably like 10 people to 15. So these actors will perform for what they call the industry, which is like agents, managers, casting directors, and basically people who give you job as an actor. And so once you have the showcase, if an agent or a manager is interested, they'll have meetings with you. So I had a few meetings, and from those few meetings, I signed with an agent and a manager. And then their job is to send you out for auditions, which are basically like little interviews to book the acting job that you do. So I did that, and then from that, like, you book things. So yeah, but then of course you don't have to go to schooling to be an actor. But really what helps is having representation, which is agent or manager, and also being in a city that has a lot of acting work, whether that's Los Angeles or New York, also Atlanta. I'm sure there are other cities, but those are the main 3.
Yeah, thank you guys. I think Carol was actually starting to get into this a little bit. So our next question was really focused on something very important to people as they look at career paths. It's like work-life balance. So we wanted to ask you, what does a day at your job usually look like? And how is your work-life balance? How many hours a week do you work? Is there anything you would say to someone trying to enter the field that they should know about?
Go ahead, Jeffrey. You can start.
All right, I can go ahead and take this one. In regards to work-life balance, I mean, I think working for a government agency, I think there's times where your work is very busy, and then there's other times where it's a little bit more relaxed. But my work-life balance, I would say, is very good. I mean, at the end of the day, you're responsible for your own work-life balance. I mean, any job is going to give you work and a little bit more work. So it's your job to make sure you maintain that balance. I mean, maintain boundaries with your employees and employers. So I think that's very important. I think having a good relationship with your coworkers, and then also having a private life outside of work. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you don't want to just be working each and every day, right? You want to have something going on after like whatever time you get off, whether that's 4 or 5 p.m. Maybe just turn off your phones, your work phones, things like that. In regards to what a day looks like at my job, the first thing I look at every morning is just emails in case anything happened. And then from there, sometimes I may have meetings, or if there's anything I'm currently working on that I need to develop and put together. There's also parts of my day which are the most exciting, is when I get to go out to the field and get to see a construction project. obviously looking at me like I'm not out there building anything with my hands. We have contractors to do that, but it's always nice to just go out, see what you worked on for sometimes months or years, and then it's ultimately coming to fruition and getting built. So that's very exciting. And then, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my 9 to 5 is emails, some meetings, and then maybe going to go out into the field.
So I also work around 9 to 6 ish, 9 to 7, depending on where I work. Right now, I have two different jobs. I work in the inpatient hospital. That one I usually see around 6 to 9 patients. Those are a little bit more complex patients where they have all different kinds of lines and tubings. To be at my hospital, they have to have at least 2 lines. So we have some very critical patients. But then other days I work in general outpatient ortho where I have around 12 to 15 patients. So that's a patient every 30 minutes. And that gets a little hectic, but it's not as complicated as the one in the hospital. So it really depends. But my day changes from time to time, which keeps it fresh. There's no real burnout for me because one day is different than the other. But always trying to keep going to the gym in the morning before work, trying to beat out the California traffic is my main goal. But other than that, just trying to have a good work-life balance, enjoying my weekends when I can, as getting ready for the new work week.
So for me, it depends on the field that we're in. Different fields have different work hours. If you're an inpatient, if you're outpatient, if you're on call. I went into the field of physical medicine and rehab, and obviously, I'm doing interventional pain. But my contract is only for outpatient clinic, so I go Monday to Friday, no weekends, no holidays. I do 8 a.m. is my first patient. My last patient's at 3:40. Obviously, you have to do notes and all that stuff in between. But I'm married and I have 2 young kids, 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. So it's nice to have those hours because I could just come home and play with them and hang out with them and my wife. So my hours are relatively pretty good for the field of medicine. And that's the reason why I went into the field that I went into, or one of the reasons why I went into the field that I went into.
I guess I could kind of take this. Since this is since emceeing is kind of like a unconventional job, not necessarily that, your parents, I would say, would be proud of, if you say, hey, I'm gonna be an MC. But this is something you can technically do it on the side, if you have another job and you can do it on the side. This is like, I would say, your life balance is kind of pretty good, because you're kind of your own boss, but at the same time, you also have to know that, if you want to get more and more jobs, more and more where clients are, picking you kind of have to reach out to people. You have to be active within our community, try to reach out to people if there's weddings, if there is any birthdays or any events that's coming up. And you see posts of like people getting married, shouldn't be annoying them, but at the same time, you kind of need to reach out, be like, hey, if you guys are interested, we're okay to take your, and we're okay to take your job as like an MC and enjoy, make it one of your best days that you would want. But it's also, kind of having that balance of like, if you're having another job like I do, I'm an accountant, so I have that job, but on the side, I'm always looking at when I have days off, hey, I'm gonna try to do an emceeing event, wherever that is. And if it's something that kind of conflicts with my regular job, I kind of try to take the day off because it's something that I really enjoy to do. And since me and my brother kind of do it together, we always go to the events together. We MC together. I think that's one of our specialties, other than like other people that do MCs, because we do it together. So it's something that we enjoy. So our work to life balance is, I would say, pretty good, but it also depends on how you kind of pursue it. If you want it to be your number one job or your top job, I would say you would have to reach out to a lot of people. And since you have a lot of time on your hand, I think you would need to use that time really well by reaching out to people, try to get the most jobs, try to get into the community, try to be more active within the community so people know about you, know your name, know your work, and you can, that's how you can do it.
I can go next. So what a job usually looks like on a day-to-day basis, I would say it's in the computer science field, it's mostly, sitting in front of a computer for several hours and trying to get your tasks or assignments done. That may or may not sound attractive, but it is, usually the task or assignment that you have could be either, creating something new within the system, or it could be, troubleshooting a problem or solving a problem within the system. And occasionally you would have to meet with your colleagues or like your technical leads or managers to, work out a solution or, to provide status updates and so forth. As far as work-life balance is concerned, I would say in the computer science field, there is overall a really great work-life balance. Our job doesn't really require us to meet people face to face. Pre-COVID, we were required to work in the office 5 days a week, but post-COVID, I haven't heard of any company that has required us to go back 5 days in office in a week. At the most, there's either a hybrid schedule where you work 2 or 3 days in the week, or you can work full remote. Me personally, I'm still working full remote. And so that contributes a lot to the work-life balance. And as far as like other concerns, but then again, it really depends on your job role and the team and the company that you work for. So I know a friend, she was an ex-colleague, and she got a great job in Amazon, and she's making a lot of money there. But apparently, sometimes she has to wake up in the middle of the night to do troubleshooting, or, always need to be around the computer. And we even went for lunch one time, and she even brought her computer there. It can be busy. I work for the public sector, and so compared to the private sector, our job has a better work-life balance.
I can go next. As an actor, it just depends on what project you're working on for what your day looks like. If you are working in a play in theater, it's usually like an office job. It's like an 8-hour day, which means you just rehearse for 8 hours during the day. And professional acting jobs are a union job. So there's like really strict guidelines on how much a producer is allowed to make an actor rehearse, how much the salary is, and all of those things. So so for a play, you rehearse 8 hours a day. And then once you go into tech, which is when they bring in all the technical elements, so the actors move into the stage. Now you have like all this lighting, the sound cues, sets, and all of that stuff. So that is like an additional week of rehearsal. And that rehearsal is usually 10 to 12 hours, and you also get paid accordingly. And then you enter shows, which means you enter previews, which is basically like you perform for a paying audience, but you also have rehearsal during the day. So you might have rehearsal for like 4 hours, and then you perform the play, which is like 2 hours or 3 hours or 1 hour, whatever it is, equaling a total of like 8 hours. Once the previews are done, the play officially opens, which means the play is now set in stone. Nothing can change, though all the blocking, all the dialogue, everything is set in stone. So once it's set in stone, then you continue just performing. So which means you get paid the same amount of money for just performing. So the performances are usually in the evening. So if it's like if the show is at 7 p.m., your call time, which is like the time you come to the theater, is usually 1 or 2 hours before. I usually like to arrive 2 hours before, regardless of the call time, to do, warm-ups and stuff like that. And then you perform the show. Sometimes you have 2 show days, which means there are 2 performances, which means there's a matinee and an evening show, which is usually like a Saturday and a Wednesday. So those days you have 2 performances. And the rest of the day is really up to you. Like you could do whatever you want to do as long as you just show up for your performances. That is what a day in the life of a theater actor looks like. Now, when you're working on television shows or films or whatever, or on set, it's a little different. You get paid for, the day rate is for 8 hours, or they bill you for the 8 hours. However, like sets are always running behind. And so you might be there for longer. So you probably are looking at like 10 hours to 12 hours, which is really, even though your scene might only have like maybe 5 lines or 10 lines or whatever it is, and it's going to take 2 hours to film, you have to be on set for a long period of time, usually because of like hair and makeup, and they might be running late during the previous scene and things like that. So it's just like a longer day, but you get paid accordingly. Then the work-life balance is hard to answer, because as an actor, unless you're like, you know, like a celebrity or whatever, like it's not like you're working every day as an actor. So you have to have all these flex jobs in place to support you while you land your next acting job, which is not, it's because it's like a untraditional career, you know? So what I do is I teach. I used to be an adjunct, and now I teach high school, and that is a way for me to, it's like my consistent bread and butter, which I also like enjoy teaching. That's what I do while I wait for my next acting gig. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds super interesting, guys. Now, looking at time, I really wanted to open it up to the audience if they have any specific questions or anything you guys were wondering about. I think that would be a great time to get those answered. Or if any of our speakers have anything additional they'd like to add, you think that we didn't get to touch on, I think this would be a great time. So I'll just give the chat. If you have any questions, just put it in the chat or use the raise hand feature and we can ask the question. While we're waiting for that, for our speakers, would you guys have any final advice for our audience? So Karishma Lugo's asked, is PM&R becoming more competitive for residency?
I think it is. It's been a long since I applied for residency. It was like 2014, so about 10 years ago now. But it seems to go in waves. It gets really hard, or it's really competitive, then it gets easy, then it gets competitive. But I think when people look at the lifestyle, it becomes it's really marketable, and a lot of people like it. So in that aspect, plus again the instant gratification, because in rehab you get to treat patients like depending on the type of rehab you do, but could be post-stroke patients, could be post-hip replacement patients, could be interventional pain, could be sports medicine, could be TBI, so traumatic brain injury. So there's a lot of gratification in it, I think, where you can see these patients and improve their function, and then on top of that, you have a really nice lifestyle for the most part, especially compared to a lot of other specialties in medicine. So I think it's very competitive. A lot of people didn't know about it in the past, or it wasn't as popular as the other fields in terms of just knowledge of the field. But I think people are becoming more aware, and it's probably becoming increasingly hard to get into.
And we have another question for Carol. So what's the favorite acting role you've ever had?
My favorite acting role, or I guess this is also the biggest credit I've had on camera. It's I worked as a co-star or recurring co-star on a TV show called The Time Traveler's Wife on HBO. And I got to work with Theo James. So it was like that was a really cool project in many sense, just working with him. And also it was directed by David Nutter, who directed a lot of my favorite episodes in Game of Thrones. And the other favorite thing that I've done is I wrote a solo show that I got to write star in and produce in New York City, and it was like an hour and a half. And yeah, and those were my two favorite things that I've done professionally.
Just looking at the time, I know some of our speakers have to be heading out. So if you guys want to answer the questions, just like typing in the chat, or if you have specific questions that you want us to forward to our speakers, I would love to do that for you guys. But just to be respectful of our speakers' time, I just want to say thank you so much for everyone who joined this Career Expo. We hope these presentations have been super helpful for you guys in exploring career paths you might be interested in. We'd especially like to thank all of our speakers today who did such an excellent job with sharing their career experience and advice with us. If you want to know more about the KCYLNA events, please follow us on Instagram or join our email list or visit our website. And if you guys have any feedback at all for us, you can find a Google form at the end of this slideshow, which we'll also put in the chat. So if you have any feedback, please feel free to fill out that form. So once again, thank you so much to our speakers and thank you so much to our audience for being so engaged. Yeah, have a good rest of your day, guys.